I still remember the first time I saw her smile, that radiant, mischievous spark that could light up a room. To the world, Whoopi Goldberg was pure joy, laughter, and confidence. But behind that smile was a story that only pain could have written. Her journey was not just about fame or fortune, it was about survival, loss, and the loneliness that comes when the laughter fades. People knew her as the Sister Act star, the comedian, the legend, but very few ever saw the woman behind the image, the broken little girl who learned to make people laugh so they wouldn't see her cry. Whoopi's tragedy didn't begin in Hollywood. It began long before the lights, long before the applause, in the tough streets of New York City. Born Karen Elaine Johnson in 1955, she grew up in public housing, raised by a single mother who worked multiple jobs to keep food on the table. Her father abandoned the family when she was just a child, leaving a hole in her heart that she would carry forever. She was different from the other kids, restless, curious, wild. She had dyslexia, but back then, no one really understood it. Teachers called her slow, stupid, lazy. She was bullied, humiliated, and made to feel like she would never amount to anything. Those words cut deep, and when the world told her she wasn't enough, she decided to create her own world, one where she could be anyone, say anything, become anything. That's how Karen became Whoopi. As a teenager, she spiraled into a dark place. Drugs became her escape, a way to silence the chaos inside her mind. There were nights when she didn't know if she would see the morning. She's spoken openly about overdosing, about standing on the edge between life and death. That near-death moment, she later said, was what forced her to choose between destruction and destiny. She packed what little she had and left home, chasing a dream that seemed impossible. She joined a theater group, performed wherever she could, slept in cheap apartments, sometimes even on couches or backstage floors. But there was something undeniable about her, a raw power, a truth in her voice that audiences couldn't ignore. Then came the turning point, a one-woman show in the early 1980s that changed everything. The Spook Show, a raw, emotional performance where Whoopi became a dozen different characters, a child, a junkie, a rich white woman, a dreamer. It was brilliant, heartbreaking, and unlike anything anyone had ever seen. And in that audience, one night, was a man who would change her life forever, Steven Spielberg. He saw her magic, her depth, her pain. And soon, Whoopi Goldberg, the girl who once thought she was invisible, was cast in The Coup. That film became her doorway to immortality. Her performance as Celie, the abused and broken woman who finds her voice, was more than acting. It was her soul laid bare. Whoopi wasn't just playing a character. She was reliving her own pain. The world watched and wept with her. Overnight, she became a star, an Oscar nominee, a symbol of power and hope. But fame, as she would soon discover, comes with a heavy price. With every success came new expectations, new pressures. She was no longer just Whoopi. She was a brand, a voice, a representative for an entire community. Hollywood wanted her to stay funny, stay fierce, stay exactly as they imagined her. But inside, she was still that girl searching for peace. After The Color Purple, she threw herself into work. Ghost, Sister Act, Jumpin' Jack Flash, hit after hit, each one bigger than the last. The world laughed and cheered, but no one asked if she was happy. Fame was her reward, but it was also her prison. Behind the scenes, her personal life was falling apart. She went through 3 marriages, each ending in heartbreak. She once said, "I don't want someone in my house. I don't want to share my life. Love for Whoopi was something she had seen fail too many times. She found comfort in solitude, but that solitude sometimes turned into loneliness. Her only true constant was her daughter, Alex, whom she had at just 18. Being a young mother with no money and no plan was hard enough, but being one while chasing a dream that no one believed in was even harder. Still, Alex became her strength, her anchor, the one person who reminded her that even if the world turned away, she wasn't alone. But life has a cruel way of testing even the strongest souls. In the early 2000s, her career hit a wall. One controversial joke, one political remark, and everything began to crumble. Sponsors dropped her. Hollywood distanced itself. The same people who once praised her suddenly turned their backs. The world that had once embraced her now called her too much, too outspoken. She felt silenced in the very industry that had once celebrated her voice. It wasn't just professional loss, it was personal betrayal. She later said that period nearly broke her spirit. Yet somehow, she found her way back. In 2007, she joined The View, bringing her raw honesty and unapologetic opinions to daytime TV. It was her way of reclaiming her space, of reminding the world that she was still here. But even The View became a battlefield. Every word she said, every stance she took, became national news. She faced backlash after backlash, criticism from every side. People forgot that she was human, that behind the jokes and debates was someone who had spent her entire life walking through fire. And then the losses came. Her mother, Emma, passed away in 2010. Whoopi was performing in London when she got the call. She said later, "I lost my best friend that day." Her mother had been her foundation, the one who had believed in her when no one else did. Losing her shattered Whoopi's world. But she had to keep going, because that's what her mother taught her: you keep moving, no matter how broken you feel. Just 5 years later, she lost her brother Clyde. He was her last close family member. That was it, she said. "I was Allo." Whoopi rarely talks about what came after, the silence, the emptiness that follows grief. But her eyes, even when she laughs, tell the story. They hold the weight of someone who has carried too much for too long. And yet, she kept showing up, for her work, for her fans, for the people who still needed her strength. In 2019, tragedy nearly struck again. She fell gravely ill with pneumonia and sepsis. Doctors told her she had a 30% chance to live. For weeks, she lay in a hospital bed, hovering between life and death. When she finally returned to The View, she said quietly, "I came very close to leaving the earth." Her voice trembled, not from weakness but from realization. She had faced death before, but this time it was different. It was a reminder that even legends are mortal. Today, Whoopi Goldberg stands as one of the most resilient women in Hollywood. She has survived poverty, addiction, heartbreak, illness, and loss. Yet she still stands unbroken. She still laughs, still speaks her truth, still fights for what she believes in. Her story isn't just about tragedy, it's about survival. It's about finding light in darkness and humor in pain. She once said, "I am the American dream. I'm what this country can be." And maybe she's right, because her life proves that even when the world turns its back, you can still rise, not as a star, but as a survivor. As I look back on her journey, I realize that Whoopi's greatest strength was never her comedy, her fame, or her awards. It was her ability to endure, to keep going when everything inside her screamed to stop, to turn pain into laughter and loss into wisdom. That's what makes her story not just tragic, but timeless. Because behind the laughter that echoed through generations was a woman who had every reason to give up, but never did. And in that resilience lies the true power of Whoopi Goldberg. The power to fall, to break, and to rise again, stronger than before.